Welcome to today's session, which aims to help our residents have a better understanding of service charges, but more specifically today, sinking funds. I'm Tom Long, and I reside with my wife at Box Tree Court in Boston Spa. We've lived here for about 3.5 years, and I have to say, some of the happiest years that we've had together. Although we have been together 60 odd years, but so these have been very, very happy indeed.
And I'm Alan. I've been a resident of St Edmunds Court in Peterborough for 8 years. Got involved in the residents forum, so pleased and happy.
So we're talking about a sinking fund today, but what is it? How does it work? And why is it different for renters versus shared owners?
To help us break it all down, we've got two fantastic guests with us, Tracy and Richard.
Hi, thanks for inviting us to talk with you. So I'm Tracy Jones, Head of Operational Development for Housing 21. I've worked for Housing 21 coming up 9 years now. My role mainly is to bring in all of the acquisitions that we purchase, but also part of my job is to work with operational projects such as service charges, Section 20 and things like that. So really excited to be joining you and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm Richard Lawton, so I'm Housing 21's Rent and Service Charge Accounting Manager. I've been with Housing 21 for about 5 or 6 years. Been doing service charges about 15 years, something like that. So I must be a sucker for punishment. But no, I'm really excited about today. Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. So we've got two real experts in their own field today, but also able to explain to you, our residents, exactly what the sinking fund is. So our first segment is understanding what it is. So can I confirm to Tracy and to Richard that it is called a sinking fund for both renters and shared owners?
Yes, that's correct, Tom. It's about terminology, really. It does get crossed over, but it does mean different things for renters and shared owners or leaseholders. But yes, it's about terminology.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tracy. But on that point, let's start with the basics. Tracy, can you explain exactly what a sinking fund is? It sounds like some naval term.
Absolutely. So firstly, we should say that all housing providers do vary, and this is really only applicable for residents living with Housing 21. At Housing 21, the sinking fund is a pot of money that helps cover major repairs and replacements in communal areas, things like emergency lighting, fire alarms and lifts, etc. Instead of having unexpected large one-off costs, the fund ensures that there's money set aside so expense of those items is included and can be covered.
So it's a savings account to cover all the bills that could possibly occur in those areas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it just keeps the court and everything running smoothly, and we don't sort of come back to residents when the works are carried out and, ask for a lump sum of money. So we're just, trying to keep the everything running as smoothly as possible and no financial shocks for residents.
Oh, that's nicely put it into a nice nutshell there, hasn't it? Something that seems so difficult, condensed down once you get the experts talking. So perhaps we ought to move now to segment 2 and look at the differences between renters and shared owners. So how does the sinking fund differ for someone who rents or someone who is a shared owner?
Good question, Tom. So for renters, Housing 21 is responsible for maintenance of the property and for certain aspects of the building, boiler, pipework, electrics and things like that. So they typically don't contribute directly to a sinking fund. However, approximately 7 years ago, Housing 21 introduced the sinking fund for renters, and this was designed as a bit more of a repayment pot for items such as lifts and fire alarms and emergency lighting. Housing 21 would pay for the works and then collect the money, put it into a pot period of time from rented residents.
But there is different arrangements between rented and shared owners, I understand.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely right. With renters there, other people will call it a usage charge or a depreciation charge. With shared owners, what we're doing we're collecting monies to go into the sinking fund pot, and it's not covered by any of the rent that a sort of a social renter would pay. And that's because the shared owners have partial ownership and they share the responsibility for the major repairs and the upkeep of the communal areas. So for shared owners, it's what we call a collection pot. And what happens there is we have a stock condition survey that's carried out at our schemes roughly every 5 years. And then what we do, that information comes back to our team and we'll see, what the sort of the recommendations have been. And then we'll sort of reassess the money in the pot. And that pot as well, for shared owners, that also gains interest, which is paid into the pot, and it also incurs some income tax.
So renters don't have to worry about payments for future works, but shared owners are involved in funding future replacements.
Exactly. It's around ensuring fairness. Everyone pays towards the contributions. It's just done differently, as we previously explained.
Well, that's now got through 2 of our segments, and we're moving forward very, very rapidly this afternoon. We're explaining this difficult part of the service charge. So segment 3 is really how the sinking fund is calculated for renters and how it's calculated for share owners.
So just to reiterate Tracy's point, each housing provider may have a different approach with what they recharge for and what they don't recharge for. So at Housing 21, for rented properties, we'll pay for the replacement costs of the item. We'll then decide how long that item's roughly going to last, 10, 20 years. And then what we do, we then apportion that cost over those number of years into the service charge until it's then either replaced again or it doesn't get replaced at the end and it's still in use, sort of thing. For shared owners, it's slightly different. So that's coming back to the stock condition survey. That's looking forward. So what we're doing there is that we're saying, we come out, we have a look at the roof or look at the lift, something like that, and kind of say, in 10 years, 20 years time, that's going to need replacing. We need X amount in the pot, or make sure we've got X amount in the pot at that time. And that's what we base the charge on. And that also looks at historical maintenance data. So, if a lift started having a lot of repairs and things like that, that might have a bearing on it being replaced, the condition of the item and the future expense, and then the budget set on those factors.
So it's a long-term plan rather than something that's decided each year. So although the contribution is paid each year, the actual plan of the sinking fund is a much, much longer term investment.
Yes, exactly that, Tom. It ensures the building remain well maintained whilst avoiding sudden spikes in cost for residents. So it avoids that up and down each year because it's a planned way of working things.
What happens if there's not enough money in the pot?
Yeah. So that's quite rare because, like I say, we do sort of keep track of these things as we sort of look at them every year, but then do a good assessment every 5 years on the stock condition survey. And then we decide if it is looking like there isn't enough money, going to be enough money in the pot, or the pot's going to be short, then we'll adjust the contributions accordingly in the budget. But the goal is always to plan ahead and avoid those shortfalls.
So Tracy, you said earlier that everyone has a sinking fund, rented and shared owners. But what is the difference in how these are calculated? Does everyone have to build up a pot of money?
No, so for renters, we pay for the works as part of the rental income. But if the works are for eligible items, and I'll just list a few, and it can be very different items that we're talking about, but such as lifts and emergency lighting and fire alarms, we would collect this money back through the sinking fund. So it's more of a repayment pot. Whereas for shared owners, it comes directly from the sinking fund, and that's what we classify as the collection pot. So one's collected in advance and one is paid in arrears almost, because it's a repayment pot. And the collection pot is there because it's been collected, ready for the works, like Richard just explained. And then should there not be enough money for the works, then we'd look at what we need to do to collect those remaining monies from shared owners and leaseholders.
Ah, so that's been very, very insightful. The sinking fund, I'm sure, is not something that every resident thinks about every waking day. But, as we've just heard, it plays a crucial role in maintaining our homes and our communities.
Absolutely. Tracy and Richard, thank you for joining us and explaining everything so clearly today.
It's our absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope you found this discussion helpful. And if you have questions or ideas for future episodes, let us know.
Thank you, Tom. Until the next time, take care.